With me today is the Sigma 20 to 200mm f3.5-6.3 DG contemporary lens. And we're going to put it through its paces, but in a slightly unconventional way to what you're normally expecting. Now, in terms of top line specs, the 20 to 200mm, first of all, is super lightweight at only 550 grams. So traveling with it is a breeze and obviously won't ever take up too much space in your camera bag. Along with that, it's the world's first 10 times zoom lens. So that meaning it goes from 20 to 200mm all in the lens itself, hence 10x, because 20 times 10 equals 200. Normally with these kinds of lenses, they lean more towards APS-C users, but this one does cover full frame and comes in both E and L mount. In terms of minimum focus, and this is always a very crucial and interesting one, at 28mm, its minimum focus distance is 16.5 centimeters, which is relatively close to whatever you're trying to capture. And when you go to the further side of the range at 200mm, it is about 65 centimeters. So obviously it gets slightly further away, but that's to be expected as all the elements are further apart. In terms of the lens itself, it's got a filter thread of 72mm. So that's for your VND or your polarizer, whatever filters you're trying to put on, 72mm on the front. Now, when traveling, obviously you don't want the lens itself extending as so in your camera bag. So luckily, if you're down at the 20mm range, you do have a lock just to lock it in place and keep you safe. The lens is also dust and splash resistant. It's great because it just gives you that extra peace of mind if you're ever out shooting somewhere where you just can't control the weather, just like England, as it's September now. In my testing of the lens, I have found that the autofocus is super quick. It's like most Sigma lenses have always been, and that is all thanks to the motors inside. Sigma have their always reliable HLA linear motors, which they use within the lens itself. So that just gives you that autofocus that's nice and sharp and snappy as well. So getting quick moments, kind of as you're seeing on screen now, is crucial. And this lens definitely allows you to do that. Now, I would say that this lens is the perfect all-rounder. You have all the focal ranges from 20 to 200mm. So if you're trying to get anything from wides to super close up or telephoto, say wildlife, or you're capturing airplanes or just something really far away, you can do it all with this one lens, which is great. Say if you're going traveling and you need to minimize your weight, then you could just throw this in the bag and I would say you can get some pretty good stuff with it. Now, normally when we review something like this, we'd go out, take photos and do something like that. I thought, why not take the new Sigma 20 to 200 and make a movie with it? So that's what we're gonna do today. So just here with me is the Sony a7S III and obviously our Sigma 20 to 200. So whilst we're inside, I'm going to be using your industry standard ND filters. So that's why I'm using the matte box. And then we're also going to be running all of our image to the Atomos Ninja 5, but that's for viewing. We're not using ProRes RAW or anything like that. But I just thought I'd show you the rig and mainly just showing the fact that this lens can do anything. And I'm basically going to just use this, not change it. We're not going to be cheeky and slide in a different lens to get different shots. Everything you're going to see from this video and in the final film itself, which will be linked below, is going to be shot on this lens. Now, I do want to pre-warn you, you in this video will be seeing just straight out camera Rec 709 as the image playback. But in the final film itself, it will have a full grade done to it. So that might be deeper shadows, it could be extra grain, that kind of thing, but they're more creative choices. Whilst we're inside, I'm going to be using this full rig from the big V-mount battery on the end, the matte box. But when we go out into the city, because we've got to do some scenes out and about, we're going to completely strip down the camera to just the camera in the cage and the lens with a V&D on the front. Now, if you did want to go through the rig and what I'm using, just ask in the comments below and we will break it down for you or even make a video on it because that's equally as fun. So it's the next day. We've spent the whole day shooting on the 20 to 200. And if I was to be completely direct, it stood up to every single challenge that I have thrown at it. Now, Don't get me wrong, I've put it in scenarios that normally you would never use this lens for, from low light conditions, say in the London Underground, to more handheld scenarios where we are in the street, run and gunning. In all honesty, there are moments where some image stabilization would be great, or maybe a lower f-stop, say f2.8 for example. However, to have the full focal ranges within the lens is also very, very handy. And I definitely made the most of it. We got some really unique things within my flat itself, from kind of like great close-ups on Foxy as she was doing her makeup, getting ready in the morning, to equally some very nice wides in kind of like that more Wes Anderson kind of scenario where you're really framing and creating an image within an image, just to kind of introduce us to the characters and see what's going on. From reviewing the footage and looking through it all, I can definitely say that the lens, as most Sigma lenses are, is super sharp. I'm definitely somebody who likes a lot of texture, and it's interesting to embrace that more crisp look into my work. Obviously, one downside is that you don't have a larger aperture, and I definitely found that challenging in some moments, and we had to bump up the ISO to compensate in terms of exposure, which obviously introduces noise. But with modern cameras these days, it's not too much of an issue, but you do always lose some detail. However, considering this lens and its price range, I still think, even though you can't get there, it's still a great option for you, especially if you love that Sigma look, so the sharper details and the more controlled flares and blooming. I definitely found with using the lens that I didn't see, surprisingly, any flares. We went from mixed conditions, say sunlight when we were outside, and when we were inside, we were using lights to obviously light the scene, and they weren't flaring or blooming over the lens. And that's all thanks to the coating which is within the lens itself on the optics, which is really nice to have. To summarize it all, I think this lens is super unique. It's there for something that you can just use whenever, and is lightweight, compact, and there when you need it. I've been Sam. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.